So you're playing Legion and you've just got yourself to level cap, level 110. So what are you going to do? Well, of course we know World of Warcraft, there'll be dungeons to do. But other than that, what else is there going to be? There's been a great showing made that in Legion there's going to be a lot of world questing. Get ourselves not just out of our garrisons, but even out of the main city. Well, what does this entail? Let's have a look. In any World of Warcraft expansion, it really doesn't matter which one it is. As soon as you reach level cap, your attention turns from experience to gear. You want to get yourself geared up. And that'll be no different in Legion. And of course, we've got an extra thing to focus on, which will be artifact power for our artifact. Now, what do we do as soon as we've reached level cap? The first big change you will notice if you open your map is you will see lots of different objectives all of a sudden, all related to campaigns to get yourself. It could be artifact power, it could be some materials for crafting, it could be straight up gear. There's some quite nice pieces of gear if you look at those. There's also, you'll notice with some of the objectives, that if you complete 4 of a particular type for a particular faction within a set amount of time, say a couple of hours, you get an extra reward as well. Now, I've not been able to show you this just yet. I will in a follow-up, which may not come immediately. The reason was that there were a couple of quests that I tried that were bugged and I couldn't complete. But certainly the idea that you are encouraged to do some of these in a certain amount of time and get this extra reward is going to engage people in the short term. It's not just going to be the dungeon treadmill, which I think some people were a little bit concerned about in Warlords of Draenor. And as for the Apexis, the key thing, there was a problem with that. I don't think it was so much Apexis, although one problem, of course, was that Apexis crystals in Warlords of Draenor became irrelevant fairly quickly. I think it was just the fact that it was all the same thing. You just went and did these bonus objective type things. Now, there are bonus objectives in Legion as well, but it's not the only content. And I think that's what makes it better, that there are different ones. I mean, the first one I actually did do when I reached level cap was this very tough mob that actually had a lot of people in the area on it, all trying to take it down. It was extremely tough. I even died at one bit there. But and that sort of thing's quite nice because, again, it's this sort of community thing. It's a social thing. Just like in an MMO, there's several of you all coming together to take on this objective. And I actually really like that. Now, it has to be said that in Warlords of Draenor, there are also like rares that are designed for level cap players that drop good loot for someone who is freshly dinged. Not terribly relevant now, but then you wouldn't expect it to be towards the end of an expansion. There's always catch-up gear available. There has been since like forever. Even late vanilla, there was catch-up gear available for you. So is this better than the rares that would also tough in WoD? I think it is, and the reason is that if you look at the rares in WoD that do have the better gear, the gear is only okay, it's not brilliant, and also they're tucked out of the way. A lot of these things are tucked out of the way, so you wouldn't actually come across them, or if you did, there's probably not going to be other people here. You can see this mob, it's really tough. I wouldn't have taken it down my own, because as soon as I died, then it would have reset presumably. But because there's several people all coming in and taking it on, it's keeping it in combat, we eventually whittle it down. And it's in the middle of a bonus objective. It's in the middle of a place where players are naturally going to be. And also, because we are very much encouraged to go out in the world, we've even got Overlord Saurfang in Dalaran telling us to go out into the world. That means that we've also, even later on in the expansion, after a month or so, if they get this right, and there's nothing at the moment that suggests they won't get this right, there's still going to be players out in the world, so there'll still be people about, and as long as there's always a reason to take down that mob if you're in the area, then that's what people will do. So there will always be people there. It's not just that it's going to be a Ghostland a couple of months in if you're late to the expansion party. So I think it's encouraging. I do think that this, just from what we've seen so far, we're no longer talking potential. This is better than Warlords of Draenor. Definitely better. In terms of the quest, there's a nice variety. There's just random mobs to go and kill. There's summonable bosses to kill. There's very tough mobs, as I showed you just earlier, that will take several of you to bring down. There's crafting quests. There's battle pet quests. There's quests related to gathering. There's just general quests. Kill so many of these and collect so many of these, or kill so many of these and kill this named mob over here. It's the usual quest that we've had in World of Warcraft. There's nothing particularly new about that, but what it's more reminiscent of is the daily quests that perhaps we had in MoP, but with a difference, which straight away makes it a lot better than in WoD, because it's not all the same thing. It's not all go to this area and click things or kill things till this bar fills up. Yes, there are bonus objectives as well, but that's not all you can do. There's various things like this. This particular summonable one is actually, ironically, one of the ones that didn't credit me at the end. But you've got waves of infernals that come in, and then a big, like infernal lord. In fact, actually, I think that's literally what it's called. At the end of it as well. Can be soloed, can be done in groups. There's no problem with this. You all share credit when it's working. Now, one big distinction I would say with MoP, because although I think people with what came in WoD would much prefer the daily system of MoP, and before, bear in mind, dailies have been a thing, not forever, but in every expansion. I didn't like them at all. In fact, I got so sick of doing them at MoP that once I no longer had to do them, I immediately never did another one again. I just literally didn't. I didn't care even if it was the most efficient way to get my... what were those little tokens that you used to get? It's so many of a week. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. I used to just get them somewhere else. Just out of a protest. This is different, and I think the reason this is different is because you don't have to go to an NPC and collect up all the quests and then go to the areas. You just go to the areas. It's like you don't have to accept the quest, you just do it, which I think is brilliant. It's on the map, it's go to the area. You don't have to pick anything up from an NPC. Just go to the area. Do you want to do it or not? No, all right then. And it doesn't really matter, and it'll be there the next day as well if you part way through it, I think, is the idea. I'm not going to be 100% on that. But remember what I said before about completing 4 of a particular type that a particular faction's interested in? I think once it starts, I seem to remember yesterday, that when you start one of them, you then get 2 hours to finish the lot, so you sort of start the timer yourself. The other thing as well in MoP, what were you doing the dailies for? It was almost entirely for faction. Yes, there were those charms of good fortune, I think they were called, that you were doing it for as well. But ultimately, you were trying to get these reputation factions up. Now, there's reputations in this one as well. There's factions in this one. But that's not the sole reason you're doing these. You're doing it for the actual rewards in themselves, which are of immediate use. So it's not like you doing 2 weeks of dailies so that then you can buy a piece of gear off a reputation vendor. This is, you get something that's immediately useful. So you get the piece of gear, which if you've just dinged level 110 is probably going to be an upgrade. You get the artifact power, which you can immediately use on your artifact. If you're into battle pets, if you're into that sort of thing, you get a battle pet stone perhaps that raises the level of your battle pet by 1. If you're doing it for crafting, well, if you're doing fishing stuff, well, you get bonus fish from it. And if you're doing like the mining one, then you get some ore and something that's useful for that from it as well. So it doesn't matter what you're doing it for. It's useful to you and it's immediately useful to you. And I think that gives it an appeal. It is a very materialistic game. Let us not get around this. We're very gear focused as soon as we've got to level cap. And it's all very much about that instant gratification, which we complain about as well. But it does give that. So the engagement to begin with will certainly be there. And in fact, I worry about it as a raider because it's like, oh my God, I'll have to do all this stuff as well. At least in WoD, not having anything to do was good for me because it meant I could focus on just getting 2 characters leveled up and geared up when I couldn't even get on the servers for a while and getting them raid ready. I think the gathering quests are particularly nice because we've been used in Warlords of Draenor, of course. We can gather outside, we can go and skin beasts, and we can pick flowers, and we can hit rocks. But of course, the rocks and the flowers we could get from our garrison, and we could trap beasts for the rather than just kill loads of mobs and skin them as well. Now in Legion, we're going to go back to the old way of actually having to gather properly. But of course, this puts a little bit of pressure, especially on perhaps players who don't remember that time or didn't like it when it came in. Maybe they liked the garrison gathering. Because, especially early on, you're not going to have flying. You're going to have to ride around some pretty rocky terrain. I mean, the art department have done a really good of making a really good world. I'll be doing a video on some of the artwork in it in a couple of days. And it means it's going to be difficult to get around. If you're mining, it's going to be difficult to go around doing your mining and your herbing and going around and skinning. So it's quite nice that you've got these quests that will allow you to do the quest in a particular area, and it's not going to be a problem if there's other people there, or it shouldn't be, because these objectives don't tend to be ones where you have to compete for the mobs. They tend to be able to share them, and the reward itself is some of the gathering stuff that you're out there for. So I think it will be particularly good for gatherers. And just to finish off, I'll say that these things have only really come in with this latest build. This is just the start. We can't even yet go to Suramar City, which is the zone, the 5th zone, which is purely for level cap. It's not a leveling zone. So what is there going to be in Suramar City? Who knows? I don't know. I can't even get there at the moment. So I'll leave you with that. I would say it's very positive now, and I know that other people that have been testing these out in alpha are very positive. I think a lot of people were quite cynical when we knew these things were coming in this build. And I think a lot of people have been turned around and gone, actually, do you know what? These are really good. These are really enjoyable. I like these a lot. Yes, it's early stuff. We have to know that they're going to keep bringing stuff out that's engaging throughout the expansion, because content gets old quickly. We know that. We know what gamers are like. They like to buy a game, blast it through for a couple of months, and then get another one. So, and obviously when you're talking about a subscription-based game or an MMO type this, the developers need to keep the attention of those sort of gamers throughout. So they're going to need to keep adding to it. But in terms of what there's going to be to begin with, it's looking really encouraging. I'm really optimistic about it. And as I say, we ain't even seen that level cap zone yet. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And if you didn't, don't forget to comment. And until next time, I'll see you later.